The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Greenfield Savings Bank, providing residential lending advice. Greenfield Savings Bank, member FDIC, DIF, equal housing lender, NMLS 409187. The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by UMass Amherst School of Public Policy, offering graduate programs in public affairs, public policy and administration, data analytics, and computational social science. umass.edu/SPP.
Welcome to the Fabulous 413. I'm Khalees Smith.
And I'm Monty Belmont. See, who?
I don't know who
It's
you are.
election week.
Oh, my God.
Oh, and yes, it's not getting to me at all. And we here at the Fabulous 413 are going to take on this election in our own quirky way.
As an oasis amidst the wall-to-wall election coverage you are getting from NPR and literally everywhere else.
For some musical respite from politics, we'll talk with Ido Moore of Secret Planet and Olivier Conan from the Brooklyn bar called Barbez about the musical retreat coming to the Berkshires, Barbez, in the woods.
And we'll orbit around the periphery of politics when we talk with Hampshire College and Kainat Studios' Salman Hameed, Mr.Universe, about the scientific implications of the outcome of this week's election. And we'll hear some aspirational astronomic advice inspired by Carl Sagan.
But we begin with amusement, which I think literally translates to not thinking. But this will be a different type of thinking. This from today's Berkshire Eagle. Dealing with election anxiety? You're not alone. Berkshire mental health experts have tips to help us cope. Step 1, stop doom scrolling.
You're not the boss of me. A story by Greg Sukanik. Doom-scrolling presidential campaign coverage at 2 a.m., tracking the latest polls about who's leading in battleground states like Pennsylvania. You're not alone. Republicans, Democrats, independents, voters of all political persuasions are experiencing election anxiety over whether Vice President Kamala Harris or former President Donald Trump will win the White House.
Mental health experts say keeping Tuesday's election in perspective and controlling one's intake of election news are ways to manage a situation that can't be fully avoided. Doing what you can to advocate for your beliefs, such as voting and campaigning for your candidate, can help, they said. So does avoiding isolation.
And we here at the Fabulous 413 aim to help. So yes, advocate for your beliefs and go vote. Please, please, please go vote, not just for the president, because there are important things that apply to the state on the ballot as well. And avoid isolation by playing games with people. We're joined by Liz Rosenberg, owner of the Toy Box on North Pleasant Street in Amherst, where this Thursday marks the return of So You Think You're Too Old for a Toy Store.
Cytotofats? Is that how you're saying it?
Cytotofats. You got it right.
Cytotofats acronym. I like that.
Cytotofats.
This Thursday, post-election, 7 to 9 at the Toy Box. 21 plus.
21 plus, same as last year.
Yes, Liz, welcome to the show. Last year when we talked about this, you brought a bunch of games, and you've brought a bunch of games again.
I have. You know, the thing about games, though, they're super visual, which is a good part of the whole game playing because it's about getting together. It's about being social.
Where did this challenge come from in the first place? Why So You Think You're Too Old for a Toy Store?
I've owned the Toy Box for 21 years.
Congratulations.
Its entirety.
It itself is legal enough to come, yeah.
I know. We were thinking for our 21st birthday we ought to just close and go out. But anyway, didn't do that. There's a constant stream of people saying, oh, we used to come in here all the time, but now the kids are too old. And they're like 13 or grown-ups say themselves like, oh, I have so much fun when I come in here. And then I think, well, why don't you come in here when you're not with the kids? Or why don't you get some things from here that could really, spark up some fun in your life and laugh more?
Yeah.
Yep.
My family and I, my now 17-year-old son and my 11-year-old and I all played Anomia.
I love that game.
That is a brain teaser, a tough one. And if you want to keep your mind sharp, as I tried to do, that's one good way to do it. Although I'll say Enzo beat me. Usually I would clean their clocks, but now the older he gets and the older I get, the slower I get and the easier it is to beat me at that game.
Well, there you have it. You just put some good words to the whole theory about, you get older, you stop playing, you start being serious about life. Yuck. And then, and then you do find that you need to sharpen your skills. You need to do something to keep you up to date, to keep you vibrant. And playing games, or even just the fun part, like the endorphin releasing laughter and fun part of life. Like, you can't let go of that. So at the store, we definitely have games that you can play into your 90s, hundreds if you want.
Yeah. Jimmy Carter probably out there playing Anomia and beating everybody.
That's right. That's right. And but we also have things that are like, I guess essentials in life that can be a little bit lighter. So make your life a little bit more silly. And so things like all the pens that we have that have, bendy dinosaurs on it or spinny head cats or things like that. They're lovely black fine-tip gel pens, but, the cat
they're
heads
more fun.
spin on them and they're fun. And
You
they
can fidget with them.
Yeah. And then we have this whole line of eyeglass or screen cleaners that are hilarious. I know. This is a piece of sandpaper.
Oh, yeah, so it looks like you're going to
And
clean
it
your
looks like
eyeglasses
you're going to
with
clean
sandpaper.
your eyeglasses with sandpaper. Here we have a D20.
Oh,
You
great.
know, how
Oh,
great is that? Or a
nice.
piece of salmon. It's like, ew, ew, but yay. A geode. Like, these are really fun. And why not? I actually personally use a slice of ham to clean my glasses.
That's
but,
pretty great.
Not kosher way to clean your glasses.
Well, the things we don't say. So, why not like pull a slice of ham out of your bag to clean your glasses? Like, that's ridiculous and that's funny.
I
like
also
that.
feel like you have a really great selection of like plush things, like soft things, and I like giving those away because that's also stress relief too. Like touching something fluffy and squeezing it is sometimes really good for your endorphins also.
Absolutely. Oh, you got it. There's so many different textures. A lot of the different like fidget toys are such a craze these days for
Are they
obvious
still?
reasons. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and they're coming out with all different kinds of textures. So they might look the same on the outside, but they have a different density, or they have a different texture, a different stickiness, tackiness to it. So, and we got to carry them all because there's all the different people and all the different needs out there. And so, so we try our best to, fit everybody's tacky desires.
We're speaking with Liz Rosenberg from the Toy Box in Amherst, which celebrates 21 years this year, about their 21 Plus event that is just in time for a post-election this Thursday, 7 to 9. If you're looking for something to get your mind, no, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know. You don't know how you're going to feel on Wednesday. You don't know how you're going to feel on Thursday. One thing that we all know is that we need a relief from stress, and this is one opportunity to do that, 7 to 9. It's at the Toy Box, right?
It's at the Toy Box, yes. And we will be closed for the hour between when we close and when we reopen for the event. So
And is it? Will there be adult beverages
there will be adult
available
beverages.
or encouraged to be brought?
No, please do not bring your own. We will have adult beverages for you if you are 21 and up. But this is intended to be for the people who want to kind of reconnect or bring a Debbie Dowder, bring somebody who you thinks they're too old for a toy store, and let's put them to the test, and we will have fun.
Yeah, there's going to be something for everybody
Oh,
in
yeah.
there, for sure.
Well, we're going to experiment in just a second with your games here
Okay.
that you brought, but I want to know two things. One, what is something wicked popular for younger people that I, as somebody in my mid-40s, have probably never heard of?
Something wicked popular for kids?
Yeah, that the kids go crazy about. So you mentioned fidget spinners or fidget things. I know about that. Is there like a game or like a toy that like is all the rage, but that an old like me would never have heard of?
There is something. There are these figurines that are crazy super popular. Some of them are called Sunny Angels. Some of them are called Smiskies. I wish I had one. I wish I'd brought one to show you.
What are they? What makes them so popular?
That I do not know. But they're blind bags or blind boxes. So like the Lego minifigures,
Oh,
they
right.
come in. You know what series you're getting, but you don't know which of the series, so which of the 12 or which of the 6 or whatever the series is. So let's say Sunny Angel, there's flower, there's sweets, there's vegetable, there's animal. There's no mineral yet. And there are these, 2.5-inch tall cherubs, and they're naked, as cherubs typically tend to be.
Yeah.
They have little wings on their back, as cherubs tend to have. And they have different heads. So they might have a broccoli head or a cauliflower head or a dog head or a cat head or like all these different heads. And they're super cute, and people want to collect all of them. There are also surprise ones in there. So those are the Sunny Angels. The Smiskies are these like green or blue non-binary figures that glow in the dark. So really, I don't see any problem. Like why wouldn't you want one? They're just great.
Smithski's sounds like people that go to Smith, and the whole
Some people that go to Smith come in.
They should
and get
identify.
Smithskis.
Maybe they should identify as Smithskis now.
Oh, that would be so great if they all glowed.
That would be.
Everything that glows in the dark is inherently cool. It just is.
So true.
What is the most fun thing for olds?
For olds.
Khalees
It's
almost
so
took her coffee.
tricky. Don't know. My friend just spit at me the other day
I was
because I
watching
made
on
her
purpose.
laugh. You
I should
know,
know better.
for olds, I think fun. It depends. You know, once you get old, it depends on what you think is fun. So. There's nothing inherently fun. I personally think the eyeglass cleaners are inherently fun, but
I do too.
I agree.
but things like we just got these pewter figures that are. I have a giraffe, I have a buffalo, a pig. Like some people are saying, they make really great Monopoly piece replacements.
Oh.
Because
Oh, yeah.
why not have
Oh, yeah,
the
they look
one
like
that
they're
you
Monopoly
really want?
I thought it was a strawberry, but it is a hedgehog.
hedgehog.
And now it is my favorite.
So cute.
So cute. But there are lots of really great games that are strategy games or legacy games. There's so many different games for adults. But I think just, to me, the everyday, like I said, the necessities that lighten the load, those are the most fun.
Yeah.
Those are the everyday uses.
And if you're looking for a way to get your friends together to play for longer than just one session, legacy games are the way to go.
Okay. Liz Rosenberg from the Toy Box in Amherst. Cy Tidofat, so you think you're too old for a toy store event happening this Thursday post-election. It's a stress reliever one way or the other, 7 to 9. What are some of the give us a glimpse at one of the games you brought here? What do you got?
Okay, so I'll tell you real quick about these games. So this is I brought 2 decks of cards that are simply just decks of cards, but they're this one is called Bag of Bones, and it's the gold version that has like the laminate outside.
So they're beautiful black cards, playing cards, but with gold leafing
foil
and
on
gold
the
foil on the
side.
sides.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's so hard. They're so visual, but the images on these cards are just absolutely stunning. They all tell a story, and they're absolutely stunning. Those are a little spooky. And then we also have these we've had for years, and I truly think they're one of our top sellers. This is called 52 Farts.
Yes.
And,
now we're talking, Liz.
Now I'm talking.
I feel
now
like
I
you're-
got the poop mouth.
You're playing to the judges here.
Yes, you certainly are.
So you're going to have to look through these, but each one of them have, they're just a plain set of playing cards, but each one of them has a different definition of a fart or a definition of a different kind of fart. So whether it's a squeaker, whether it's, I don't know, there's so many kinds.
I'm going to read the titles as opposed to the definitions because I think that I would love reading the definitions, but I think our listeners might not.
And I feel like
the
it's
Rumbler, that's one of them. The Lotus Blossom. You can use your imagination as you think how these manifest.
Read some of the synonyms
The
at the bottom,
megaphone,
too.
acoustic tiles, bathroom break, Doppler effect, sound projection, yodeling. See also.
Doppler effect.
Yeah. Rump roast.
So I was at a show and I ran into a woman and we were talking about this game and she said to me, well, I got to ask you because I was on the train this morning and I farted and I couldn't remember which kind it was. And
So
I was
luckily
like, well,
I
here's a deck.
I
You
have my
can figure
deck
it
of
out.
cards, so look it up.
Right? And then a game I brought to play with you if we have a minute
Yes, we have a
is called
couple minutes.
Itsy. It's one of the games by Tenzi, which is the name of the company. I'm actually wearing a Tenzi shirt.
It says have a dice day, which is wonderful.
Yes, it's very fun.
They make a lot of dice games, but those are pretty much impossible to play. Oh, I took some out. Well, they're impossible to understand on the radio.
So these are very colorful, square-shaped cards.
And they
Correct.
have letters. Half of them have letters in each of the corners.
Right. And there's a
Right.
picture of what looks like a die in the middle of them all.
Well, they have different.
They have
things
different
Oh,
symbols
okay.
in the middle.
So they actually have 4 letters on each side in different colors, and 4
I
letters
love
on the
4-letter
opposite
words.
side.
Nice.
And if this was a 4-letter word game, you would be in love, Monty. But it's a little bit different.
Okay.
So basically, each person gets 5 of these cards. We're going to give you.
Liz is dealing.
I'm giving.
Dealing?
I'll give you 5.
Yeah. 5 cards with the letters on
5
them.
cards with the letters on it,
Okay.
and like I said, front and back count. And then what we do is somebody's going to flip over one of the informational cards This one says it's a musical instrument. So you want to look on your card and find a musical instrument that begins with a letter that you have in your hand and put it down.
So does it have to match the color on the card or anything like that?
That is another level of play.
Okay. Because I saw the blue on the one end, and I took blue and I thought clarinet with my blue C.
Yeah, you did, but you came in after flute, so you have to take your card back.
Okay.
Right. And then it's a candy.
Chocolate.
So I'm going through all the hint cards, and you're putting down all the letter cards.
Okay.
So it goes, and besides those cards being letters on front and back, so are the clues on front and back. So there are a lot of options.
So you can keep playing this game for a very long time and not feel like you've used all of the options, like with Anomia.
Exactly. It's really, yes.
All of my answers memorized at this point.
It's got lots. And it's funny because they make a card game, they make Risky Itsy, which is supposed to be, for the
Adults.
edgy adults.
You don't try to take over Eurasia with Risky. It's
No,
it's a different game.
And I find that I like that, but this one you could go in any direction you want with that.
It's a condiment. Butter.
Ketchup.
All right, I flipped.
Ooh.
I think it was a tie.
Right?
That was a tie.
So they're really, it's a type of metal. It's a sitcom. It's a breed of dog.
Oh, I love it.
This is a fun game.
This is great.
It's a letter between O and U. And so then you can play. It's a reason to celebrate. So there's things that really get you thinking. You can play it that you have to match the color as well. Then you have to play that you match the symbol in the center, which there's stars and moons
so
and
there's
feet.
different levels of the game too, and this
Different
all in
levels.
this one game.
Yep.
It's really fun.
I love
easy
this.
easy to take traveling.
Yep.
Yeah.
Super great.
And great and easy for parties too. Always looking for a good party game, and this has all the right things.
It comes in a box that's about the size of a box of chocolates.
Yep. Confuse your friends.
You could get a box of chocolates and a game of Itsy, and
Because life is like a box of chocolates, and you
goodness.
never know what
Stop
you're
it.
going to get.
life is.
And
So
it-
we did think about the fact that this event is 2 days after Election Day,
Yes.
and we did have all this should we or shouldn't we?
Mm-hmm.
And I really honestly can't decide. So I'm just sticking to it.
You should.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah. We're taking the same approach, which is a lot of people are doing a lot of things, and a lot of people are talking about things that are very important, but you need to take a mental break. And this is one way to do it.
Yep.
We
So
also
please come.
continue to say that this show will be somewhat of a mental break from all the wall-to-wall political coverage that you'll hear over the next couple of days, too, including talking about a deck of cards that labels farts and a game called Itsy.
And one that has beautiful paintings of slashers and things from horror movies as its face cards.
And ham that you can wipe your glasses with. It's all part of Titofats. So you think you're too old for a toy store? It is this Thursday, post-election, 7 to 9, 21 plus at the toy store known as the Toy Box on North Pleasant Street in Amherst, which celebrates its 21st anniversary this year. Liz Rosenberg, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you guys. This is always fun. I love it.
Yay!
Later in the show, another way to stop doom scrolling, swing state polls and to isolate yourself, but with others, in the woods, when we hear about the return of the music festival, Barbez in the Woods.
But up next, Mr.Universe Salman Hameed orbits around the idea of the election and talks about the implications your choice may have on the state of science in the U.S. and around the world.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
Past the stocks and overstyles, kiss the window.
NEPM's podcasts are funded by Armbrook Village Senior Living in Westfield, with support services designed to help seniors age in place, including a Compass Memory Support Neighborhood. More at armbrookvillage.com. The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by the UMass 5 College Credit Union, offering co-op advantage checking with cash back on all purchases, plus secure debit card controls, all from the UMass 5 mobile banking app. Insured by NCUA, umass5.coop.
To boldly go where no man has gone before.
On Election Eve day, here we sit at the Amherst kitchen table of Hampshire College astronomer and the head of Kainat Studios, Salman Hameed, Mr. Universe. We're going to take a very particular role this election week on the Fabulous 413, which is we're going to be the oasis in the middle of NPR's other programming that is going to go wall to wall talking about the minutia of swing states and this and that that's going on with the campaign. We're going to view things through an election lens, But we don't need to get into the details about voting and polls and all that. However, elections do have consequences, and that is what you would like to talk about as an academic astronomer here today.
Oh, well, thank you. And I really, for a brief minute, I thought you were going to ask me for astrological predictions.
Can you give me your astrological prediction as who's going to win the election? We already talked on Friday's show about how there's an octopus that's supposed to be psychic that chooses who's going to be the next president.
No, I mean, I think there are implications to that. And the two big issues that are out there that has a direct implication on science. One is climate change. This is one of the biggest issues out there, and we can talk about how things are going one way or the other in terms of politics, in terms of social factors and others. But the world itself, we are in serious trouble. The flooding, for example, in Spain that just happened, I mean, that is just one thing. And of course, we are more familiar within the US context about hurricanes. Last year, there was devastating floods in Pakistan. And a little bit what I worry about within that context is that we are getting used to hearing about these insane numbers that come out, like in Spain, where a year's worth of rainfall fell in a few hours. Mm-hmm. And you move on. You hear about temperature off the coast of Florida being over 100 degrees, and you move on. Mm-hmm. So what to do about that? And it is very clear from that context that former President Trump, he pulled U.S. out of the climate agreement. And President Biden brought it back, and I think that is really important for that. And it is not just about the U.S. either, because what U.S. does in terms of climate change actually impacts the entire world. So this is a really important issue. And of course, the second issue, which you have talked about in general, it has been talked about in the elections, and it's about health, women's health, but also we went through the pandemic. So we have an idea in terms of what these approaches are going to be. And if we go in the direction of, I wouldn't say dismantling scientific institutions, but certainly what was happening before, and we still are dealing with the legacy of this mistrust of science. And these are not new issues, but there is a difference when you have these doubts being sowed by the White House, by the president, even though scientific institutions are still considered in most cases as bipartisan. In some cases, like the vaccine issues and others, you can actually see the erosion of that. And then this issue of whose reality we are looking at. I think if you have a president that sows doubt from the top, you have Elon Musk, for example, with Twitter. Issues of aliens, for example, and this is like, remember, that is something that was brought in by the New York Times, and now somehow that issue, even though most scientists will tell you that there is no basis to that, but somehow there is this alternative reality about that government maybe is hiding something. There have been congressional hearings about it.
It's interesting, and this is one area that I can say that I definitely agree with former President Trump. He has a negative view of certain type of aliens, but he really loves aliens from outer space. I mean, you got to try to find the common ground somewhere.
Be good.
It does matter what science can tell you in terms of reality. And if you start to erode that sense, that is another place where we should worry about losing our sense in terms of our trust in science. And I'm saying trust in science with all the caveats of the misuse of science and things like that. Nevertheless, we do know, for example, that climate change is real, and we really have to worry about our future.
There was an article in the magazine Nature just last week that talks about the implications of this election and what it will mean for the United States as a scientific superpower. You came from Pakistan to study here in the United States because of the reputation of the schools that were here and what you knew you could learn here that was appealing for you to come and leave your whole life from Pakistan behind.
So this is another aspect to that. President Trump had initiated two things. One was what was called the Muslim ban. That had damaging consequences, and that was a ban on travel from several of the Muslim majority countries. And then he also had what got dubbed as the China Initiative, and that was to really go after a lot of the Chinese scientists who are in the US and suspecting them of espionage. And oftentimes there were multiple cases that went up, and oftentimes those were small clerical errors. If you have a National Science Foundation grant that, they did not check the right box and things like that. And almost all of those cases have been dismissed or thrown out. But it has a chilling effect on people coming from outside working here. And you can imagine, if you are coming from somewhere else into a new culture and a new country, you are on alert and you are insecure in the sense that, I don't know where I am, I don't know what mistake can I make, and so on and so forth. But then you have, again, these institutional actions that target you. And so you can imagine how vulnerable you feel personally, and then what you convey to other people who want to come. If you are looking at the contributions of people who are coming from abroad to the US science, 43% of the doctorate holders in the US workforce in STEM fields were born outside the US. That's a huge, so if you think about, science is what makes US a superpower. Science is what makes US economy run. That's all the innovations that are coming in. 43% of the scientific workforce, the PhD holders, were born in other countries than the US. So they are the ones who are coming in, and there is a reason why we come in, because science is so cool. You have institutions that welcome you and so on and so forth. But if you have actions that were taken, for example, previously, then you can have a drop in those, and that US has also been seeing a drop in the people who want to come to the US and work here.
Some of the things that the Trump administration or the potential future Trump administration have said is going back to the idea of keeping the southern border of the United States closed with a wall or what have you. There may be people listening to this that are more sympathetic to Trump's views about immigration and say, we're not talking about the scientists. We're not talking about those people that are coming over to study from other countries, to get their doctorate, to get in medicine, to get in the STEM fields. That kind of immigration they don't have as big a problem with. What's your take on that perspective?
This is one of those things that, Trump campaign has also tried to do, sort of pit one type of immigrants against another type of immigrants.
The model immigrant myth.
That's exactly right. And first of all, purely from a human perspective, I think there is a problem regarding that, because a lot of the people who move or who want to come to the US or any place else, it's not just the US that is doing that. There are really problematic policies in the European Union as well. And oftentimes, people are moving because they have to. Because there are, for example, wars going on over there. And many of them are climate refugees because the wars or the civil war or the situation over there has gotten worse because of climate change. But oftentimes those wars or climate change impacts are the result of actions of the US and other large powers. So we are not completely innocent in terms of, why do these people want to come here? It's the same thing, sort of when post 9/11 there was this, I think it was a Newsweek cover story, why do they hate us? And it was just such a weird type of framing, because we have to know what our government's actions are that are impacting other people in other countries. This is something that is on many people's minds, and I think it should be on more people's minds, of what is happening, for example, in the Middle East and in Gaza. Mm-hmm. Those are the US weapons that are being used. So we cannot wash our hands off and say, rest of the world, we just drop bombs over there. I don't know, why should they be upset, or why should they be impacted by the US? As Spider-Man would say, with great power comes great responsibility.
Are you afraid that I'm going to turn into some kind of criminal? Quit worrying about me, okay?
So you cannot remove the responsibility part. The great power is there. So when you look at people who are trying to come to the US, and again, nobody wants to leave everything. And I'm not talking about the immigrants who are more well-off or more privileged, because that also happens, and and I'm one of those in that context. But in general, there have been studies that have shown that immigrants actually generally have a positive impact. If you just think about, those are the people who have the initiative, even if they are escaping, fleeing from some other place, they want to do good. They are usually hard workers. They understand that you have to actually work hard in order to establish yourself and not. And that's one of the reasons why immigrants in general actually, their kids end up as more successful. So for me, it's a no-brainer, both from the humanitarian perspective, from the perspective of our own responsibility, and from the perspective of the overall impact of immigrants in the country. Now, it's not an easy solution because, there are also issues because how many immigrants can come in? How many can we take? Yeah, those are tough issues. But just to block people off simply because we don't want people to come in. And oftentimes it's xenophobia, which President Trump has explicitly said, because it's not the immigrants that he objects to, it's the wrong kind of immigrants. And he has explicitly said, he wants immigrants from Sweden or from Scandinavia, but not from countries that, he has used certain words to describe people from Haiti and other places. So that's where the problem lies.
And you, as an immigrant, Salman Hameed, Hampshire College astronomer, working here for many years, living many, many years in the United States, are saying that anti-immigrant rhetoric may have chilling impacts on people, not just from the places that the Trump administration does not want to see people coming from. If there is a brilliant scientist in Pakistan or another predominantly Muslim country, when a Muslim ban goes into effect, now that brilliant scientist who could have come to the United States, contributed here, made a major impact here, may reconsider or think about going someplace else simply because of the rhetoric.
Absolutely. And frankly speaking, I also get emails for advice, especially from 2016 to 2020, if there were students who were planning on coming from Pakistan to the US. And I would say, you should really think about it. If you really want to come here, there are other places you can go to. And indeed, at that time, and I'm using just the example of Pakistan, which I'm more familiar with, the flow of students to Australia and New Zealand had actually increased, in Canada had increased, and those were the students who would have come to the US. And so again, one aspect is very practical bit, but I also go back to the thing that as an American or as American policy, what we should be doing, what is right. Not just, hey, that it benefits us. And I think we should be a welcoming place. That is what I think. And I've benefited from it. That is what makes America America, that you can actually come here and be successful. It's not that easy, but you can do that and you can actually contribute to that. But there has to be, purely from a human perspective, there has to be a positive attitude regarding that, considering the ruling class, or the people who are dominant in the U.S. were all immigrants to a certain degree, and what happened to the indigenous population within the United States context. And so just purely from that, to say that, we want to treat certain immigrants in a different way, or we want to stop certain people from coming in, that would be hypocritical. And from science perspective, I take a broader view of that, and I've mentioned the China initiative, for example, which targeted Chinese-born scientists who were working in the United States legally and everything. And now, even under President Biden, that kind of rhetoric, even though he stopped the China initiative, nevertheless, there is a bit of hostility towards Chinese scientists, that, they are here to steal secrets and so on and so forth. And I find that actually quite depressing and I think dangerous, because China and US are competing now in the sciences and also economically and other places. But one of the wonderful things in thinking about science can give you a broader perspective. Carl Sagan had that pale blue dot, this was the picture that was taken by the Voyager spacecraft when it went beyond the orbit after its encounter of Uranus, and it turned back and it took the picture of the Earth, and all you could see was a pixel, a dot. And he wrote beautifully about, this is where we all are. But then we are all fighting over dominance. We are doing terrible things to everybody else or discriminating other people just for a brief period of time, fighting over who can own a little bit more of that dot. Wouldn't it be great if, for example, Chinese scientists and the US scientists are working together to solve problems, and they have worked together. In fact, some of the most cited papers have been actually together with European, Chinese, and US scientists when they work together. But that collaboration between Chinese and US scientists has been dipping sharply. And it's because of this particular attitude. On the contrary, wouldn't it be amazing if it was being thought of that we are jointly thinking about how we are going to explore the moon? I think that's the spirit we should be thinking about, rather the rhetoric started by President Trump, but unfortunately, the anti-China rhetoric has continued under President Biden. I think that's a problematic approach.
There is perhaps no better demonstration of the folly of human conceits than this distant image. To me, it underscores our responsibility to deal more kindly with one another and to preserve and cherish the pale blue dot, the only home we've ever known.
Up next, head for the hills. The Barbès in the Woods Music Festival returns, and this time it's in Sheffield. We'll talk with producer Ido Moore and Olivier Conan about bringing this Brooklyn bar's spirit and mission to Western Mass.
You're listening to The Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Northeast Solar, helping customers make the switch to solar for savings, energy security, and tax incentives. Learn more at northeast-solar.com. NEPM's podcasts are funded by Armbrook Village Senior Living in Westfield, offering assisted living and compass memory support with evidence-based treatment for those with memory loss. More at armbrookvillage.com.
Welcome back to the Fabulous 413. If the election this week makes you want to run away and hide in the woods, you're in luck. Barbès in the Woods is returning to Western Mass November 22nd through 24th. Barbès is a music festival featuring talent from all over the globe.
The name is inspired by the Brooklyn bar Barbès, which has become a hub of the musical creativity of a diverse metropolis like New York City. And for this incarnation, Barbès in the Woods is coming to Racebrook Lodge in Sheffield, featuring Son Rompepera, Combo Chimbita, Slavic Soul Party, and so many more.
Here to tell us about the festival and the rapidly declining number of tickets, for what we know, is festival organizer and founder Ido Moore, as well as Olivier Conan from the original Barbès in Brooklyn. And Olivier, we haven't had a chance to speak before we had you on, but we want to make sure we're pronouncing your name the way you like to pronounce it. So how do you pronounce your name, Olivier?
Oh, you just said it right.
Conan?
Olivier is good.
All right.
Conan, there's so many ways. I say Conan here mostly.
Okay. We want to abide by you. And maybe that's a great place to start, Olivier, because you are one of the founders of this Park Slope, Brooklyn-based bar that has brought so much incredible music from all over the place together that it was an inspiration to our guest in studio here, Ido Moore. Tell us about the founding of Barbès.
Well, Barbès started 22 years ago now. It's been around for a long time. And the model has been the same since we started to have present as much music as possible, which tends to be about 2 acts a night, each with a slot of about almost 2 hours. So the ability to really be creative, to stretch, and to develop new talent. We don't really base our bookings on numbers. We base it on taste, and we hope that after sometimes a few years of developing a new artist, they'll catch on. Our place is very small, so it's easy to do that in that context, but we've had a lot of luck, and I think we've created a very wonderful community over the years.
How are you finding these artists to bring to Brooklyn, Olivier?
Well, it's Brooklyn. It's really easy.
They find you.
I mean, after 22 years, we have enough of a reputation that people contact us. But I travel. I listen to a lot of music. I play a lot of music, and I think we've created a kind of a brand, or at least a series of aesthetics that people recognize, and they get. And we live in Brooklyn, as I said. There's a lot of great musicians. I don't know how they survive because it's not an easy place to live, but it's happening.
I mean, enough of a reputation that we decided to capture the spirit and put it in the woods here. Ido, how did you connect with Olivier to start Barbès in the Woods?
Yeah, I was just a fan for years. I would go to the bar whenever I was in New York. I would go any night of the week. There was something amazing going on. I love Tuesdays in particular. Slavic Soul Party's been playing Tuesday nights there for like 20 years. Mm-hmm. Inspired by the Rebirth Brass Band residency in New Orleans. And it was like the magic spot. Literally my favorite place in New York City. And I think, after knowing the place for over a decade as just a fan, I had started presenting music up in Western Mass. And my collaborators at the time, Laudable Productions, we had the idea to do a festival. And I was like, why don't we do a festival with the bar, with Barbez? And we reached out to Olivier, and he was into it right away. There's something the bar is tiny, and there's so much incredible music that goes through it, but so little space for it all to happen at the same time. So you have all these artists and an audience that ripples through different genres and is there on different nights of the week, or maybe not. Maybe they only go one night a week and they've never been on a Thursday.
Right.
And so to get everyone together, that's sort of the dream, like to have a bigger event for the bar.
There's nothing little about the bands that are playing, and I've been to Barbez in the Woods several times before, although I've not yet been to the bar.
Same.
I would love to go there next time in New York City, though. But the sound of so many of these bands, Slavic Soul Party included, who will be part of this Barbez in the Woods, is so huge. Olivier, have you had the opportunity to experience your bar, Barbez, when it's in the woods of Western Massachusetts? And what's the experience like going from the very tiny setting in Park Slope to the very big setting of the glorious woods of Western Mass?
Well, Ido did such a wonderful job that it felt very natural. There was the community was very similar, the musicians were similar, and there was a convivial aspect to the whole thing that felt just like the bar, and so wonderful to be able to actually get out of the city. So, no, I think Ido's created an atmosphere that is very conducive to creating a new community that is very much like the one in Barbez, but in Western Mass.
Speaking of building new community, you established Secret Planet, which is a music CSA this year. And this is working as it's one of the events for Secret Planet, but how does this festival actually slot into how Secret Planet is working?
I mean, I think it all goes back to New York, because Secret Planet is originally this showcase that happens in January that presents artists often from out of country and hopes to get them touring in the U.S. for the first time. And Olivier Conan and Jim Thompson of Electric Cowbell have been running that showcase for 10 years. And this past year we got together and we decided to start a regional routing community that would help some of these artists book 5-6 gigs across the Northeast. And one of those stops would be Northampton. So it's all sort of part of this sort of DIY kind of punk kind of just supportive global music thing we're doing.
It's so cool.
And punk and global music will combine at Barbez in the Woods. And we're going to hear more specifically about some of the artists who will be playing November 22nd through 24th at Racebrook Lodge in Sheffield. And we'll hear a little bit about the importance of Racebrook Lodge in Sheffield coming up in just a little bit. More with Barbez in the Woods founder Ido Moore and Barbez, the bar founder, Olivier Conan, coming up.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
Welcome back to the Fabulous 413. We are talking about Barbez in the Woods, the music festival happening November 22nd through 24th at Racebrook Lodge in Sheffield. And we're talking with festival organizer Ido Moore and one of the people that is the inspiration behind the name of the festival and the musical ethos of it as well, Olivier Conan.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the folks that are coming. We've heard in the beds that we've had so far, we've heard a little bit of Slavic Soul Party. We heard Combo Chimbita. We're going to hear some Rompepera, who are just an amazingly lively band. It's
the only mosh pit I've ever seen at the Green River Festival.
It was amazing. Yeah, I believe we had Brian Westbrook, who organizes RPM Fest, the heavy music festival, and he's just like, I don't think I've ever seen, and I may never see a circle pit at Green River Festival ever again. This moment is amazing. But the list of artists that you have coming to this is such an amazing swath. It always is. I kind of want to start with talking about Hausa. I know I'm saying his name wrong, but especially because in some of his work, he's teamed up with Menahan Street Band, who are the backing band for Leaf Fields, a bunch of the Duotone Records stuff here. Let's talk about him and his move from Brazil to LA to do more of his work.
Mm-hmm. And Olivia, do you want to take this one? Should I?
You can take it.
Yeah. Hamza's one of the samba musicians of our generation, but like many musicians in Brazil, they've struggled over the years and they've relocated to Europe or the U.S. And he was on a path, just sort of this meteoric rise, recorded with Sue George and released literally in March 2020, right when the pandemic started, which is rough.
Yes.
And as many musicians who released music in that time period know, it's like it never happened.
Yeah.
But since then, he's been building an audience in the U.S. and Europe, and he's doing really, really well. He's incredible. He's coming with, I think, a couple backing vocalists and a drummer, and super excited for that. That's a Saturday night.
Oh, that's going to be great. I also wanted to talk about Miramar, in no small part because of this project that they did with a Puerto Rican composer that is really fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
This is their song, Un Astro.
Mm-hmm. So good.
It's so good.
Tell us a little bit about Miramar. You want to take that one, Olivier?
Yeah, sure. I mean, they're good friends of mine, and I've been fans of their music since for many years. And yes, their first album was an homage to Sylvia Rexach, who was a great Puerto Rican composer, who's very famous on the island, but not at all known outside of a certain kind of Latin world where boleros are well regarded. And their tribute was absolutely beautiful. It raised their profile a little bit, I think, in the U.S. I mean, on the continental U.S. at least. And they have a new album coming out. I mean, I'm not sure if your listeners are aware of what bolero is. Bolero is essentially how do you just they're ballads. The Latin ballads that have been popular for 50, 60 years in all of Latin America, especially Cuba and Mexico originally, then Puerto Rico, and then really all over the place. And it's all about crying, being emotional, and kind of happy and dancing at the same time. And Miramar takes it to a new level, I think, by very sophisticated arrangements, beautiful singing. It's not kitsch, but it could be if it fell on the other side of the fence.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love them. I think they're one of the great bands, and they have the new album coming out in January, which I hope will do very well. But don't miss them.
Yeah.
Especially, it is time to support Puerto Rico right now. So.
Facts.
If you know what I mean.
Yes, we know what you mean. We're speaking about Barbez in the Woods, which is coming to Sheffield, Mass. on November 22nd through 24th. A limited number of tickets still available, but there's still some tickets, right, Ito?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a few for Saturday, more for Friday and Sunday. You can pick one day. This year we're going to 3 days. We're stretching out. We're really thinking of this as either, it could be therapy, it could be a celebration, but it's going to be a deep, immersive musical hang. Right before it gets cold, right before the holidays.
Mm-hmm.
And there's really any day you pick is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I think the lineups, we have over 20 artists. We've got Teke coming from Montreal. This is a Japanese surf rock group that has barely played the U.S. They're super cool.
Yeah.
We have
That's Teke.
Teke.
Yeah, Teke. Their combination of instruments is just fascinating.
Yeah, there's trombones and flutes and crazy shamanic Japanese singing.
Yeah, you had me at Japanese surf rock from Montreal.
A little psychedelia thrown in there too for good measure. They're really interesting. I also wanted to talk about Lolise because I think people might have seen her as part of Underground System, who have toured up here before.
Sure.
But her solo work is totally different and real neat.
I love it.
Yeah, right?
That's Lolise, who's one of the artists that's playing at Barbez in the Woods, November 22nd through 24th at Racebrook Lodge in Sheffield.
Yeah, it's a solid lineup every day, so don't think that any is more is better than the other because each day that you go, there's really great stuff going on.
Ito, tell us about Racebrook Lodge and that place's history and import.
Yeah, super interesting spot. It, started out as a farmhouse like in 1750. It became a stagecoach. Stagecoaches that would go like a tavern. If you were going from Albany to Hartford on a stagecoach, you would stop there. And then it became a bed and breakfast. And then in the 90s, it was taken over by Sir David Rothstein, who is legendary in the Berkshires for having started the Music Inn in the 70s. This spot where like everyone from like Joan Baez to Bob Marley played there.
Wow.
Which is nuts.
Which is crazy musical history. And then his son Casey has taken over Racebrook and is, I think, doing the same thing, continuing the legacy. We're psyched to work with Casey. It's an amazing, magical spot. It really matches the aesthetic of the bar down in New York, where it just feels like it's just something ineffable. It's the character of the place. It feels like a place you want to just hang out in all weekend with your friends.
Well, Olivier, I can't wait to come visit my friends who live in Park Slope and come to your wonderful bar there, one of whom is going to be on our show tomorrow on the Fabulous 413. But for now, Barbez comes to us in Sheffield, Massachusetts for November 22nd through 24th for Barbez in the Woods, a stellar lineup and some tickets still available. And once again, a way to escape from the madness of the news cycles and just celebrate with other folks.
And embrace the
from
sounds
all
of
over
the whole
world.
world.
Yeah.
Right.
Ido Moore from Barbez in the Woods and Olivier Conan from Barbez the Bar in Park Slope, Brooklyn. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us. Can't wait.
Oh, our pleasure. On the next Fabulous 413, it is the day that we have both been awaiting and dreading for months.
As we head to the polls to elect a new head of state.
And as momentous as this time is, it's not the first occasion on which a black woman has made a bid for the office. Professor Usman Power Green chats with us about Shirley Chisholm and her lasting legacy in politics.
And then we'll segue straight into the judicial branch, sort of, as Park Slope resident Judge John Hodgman is bringing his beautifully arbitrary form of comedic justice to the Shea Theater this weekend. We'll speak with him and bailiff Jesse Thorne about the weight of being right in household disputes on a day where there will no doubt be lots of household disputes.
Lots of
Election
household
day.
disputes.
I'm Monty Belmonte.
I'm Clea Smith. Talk to you tomorrow on the Fabulous 413.